The Xbox Kojima project is apparently still on. We have more information about Scarlet Nexus and the amount of players it's reached, and it has been helped out by Xbox Game Pass. Cloud gaming has expanded into Brazil and is now available on console, and CD Projekt Red has released their financials, so we'll take a look at that. So the Xbox Kojima project has been something that has been interesting to follow, as this has been a rumor in the works for a relatively long time now. We heard about it. We got some insider information from Jeff Grubb way back, and then it just completely went silent, and we hadn't heard anything about it in a very long time. And it looks like the project is still on. Again, this is according to Jeff Grubb. So if you remember last year back in April, there was all this stuff going around about Abandon from Blue Box Games, which we kind of know now is almost scammy in a way, where the developer was on a podcast with Colin Moriarty and just really seemed lost, and that this game had almost ran out of money. So we don't know what's happening with that anymore, but a lot of people were taking a guess and speculating that these teasers for this Abandoned game was the next Kojima game that was going to be exclusive to PlayStation. It was potentially a revitalization of Silent Hill or something along those lines. And obviously that's not what this Abandoned game is going to turn into, unless we're completely still getting trolled by Kojima, but I really do not think so. And with this report, Jeff Grubb had put out kind of a counter argument to this, and it had to do with Kojima and Xbox. And this all stemmed from Phil's shelf, which a lot of things stem from, where they had the Ludens statue here, which is the mascot for Kojima Productions. And Jeff Grubb says here, but the biggest piece of evidence I have that Abandoned is not a Kojima joint is that Kojima is in talks with Microsoft about publishing his next game, according to a source familiar with the matter. The statue on Phil Spencer's shelf was referencing a potential deal with the legendary developer. I cannot confirm if Xbox closed the deal yet, but my understanding is that Kojima is the focus of a Microsoft plan to tap into Japanese talent. And a lot of the reasons why Kojima wanted to work with Xbox that we've heard is because they have the cloud gaming infrastructure, they have Azure, and he wants to be able to utilize that technology to just make a massive game with all of his ideas and all of his creative juices that will be able to take advantage of it. And then we haven't really heard anything about that for the rest of the year and going into 2022, but we do have this now report again from Jeff Grubb talking about it. And this comes via his Grubb Snack Show on the premium Giant Bomb subscription, I'm assuming. And he says here, as a couple of weeks ago, the Xbox and Kojima deal was still on. And the reason why he was talking about it, I guess why he was asked about it or just going over this, was because there has been speculation that PlayStation Studios is in some sort of talks of actually acquiring Kojima Productions, because they had added Death Stranding to the PlayStation Studios banner. We can see here on Reset Era, this was posted. Sony have updated the webpage for PlayStation Studios, still haven't added Haven yet. Banner was also updated with Demon Souls, the new MLB guy, which is, Otani. I mean, not just the MLB guy, one of the most lethal MLB guys, can pitch, can hit, can do everything. Really enjoying MLB if you haven't been able to tell. It says here, updated alloy design and updated GT. Concrete Genie guy was removed for Death Stranding. So here is the old banner. Here is the new banner. You can see Otani there. You can see Death Stranding right beside it. And then I guess you can see the updated alloy design right there. So people were speculating, hey, does this mean that Kojima Productions is being acquired by PlayStation? But from what I understand is that PlayStation owns the Death Stranding IP, so it makes sense that they were adding it to the PlayStation banner. I believe even back when Ori was an Xbox exclusive, Xbox had updated their marketing stuff to include Ori and Will of the Wisps. And just to confirm here, in this article, it mentions, for one, Sony published Death Stranding and therefore owns the rights to the IP, even though Kojima Productions is still an independent studio, which would make sense why they would be using Death Stranding as a way to advertise the games that you can play on PlayStation. So this brings us back to this Xbox and Kojima game, which apparently is still going on. According to Jeff Grubb, they're still in talks. We haven't heard about the deal being finalized or anything along those lines. But he also goes on to say, this isn't based on the information I had last year. This is more recent than that. this is still on. Does this mean that PlayStation couldn't have acquired Kojima Productions? Not necessarily. So could he still be in talks with PlayStation for an acquisition? And if he is, he could still be making a game using the Xbox technologies, the Azure technologies, and probably just putting the game on multi-platforms everywhere that you're going to be able to play it. And this kind of reminds me to the similar partnership and alliance that Xbox has with Sega, where they are going to be having a strategic alliance to use their cloud technology in order to make their super game, which we now know are multiple games, but the games are still going to be multi-platform. So I kind of have a feeling that this may be along those lines as well, where Kojima is going to be using that cloud-based technology to make just a huge game that he couldn't make anywhere else with any other company, but he still wants to be able to put this game out on every platform possible. We'll have to wait and see what happens, but I guess according to Jeff Grubb, he has some current sources that this thing is still going on. And to me, this has been one of the most mysterious rumors that we have heard about, because it seems like very legit because he keeps saying it's happening, but we've had zero information from it other than what Jeff Grubb has said. Jumping over here to another success story, I wouldn't say just because of Xbox Game Pass, but I definitely think it plays a big role on the amount of people that have experienced this game, and it has to do with Scarlet Nexus. So they put out this tweet here saying celebration mode on Scarlet Nexus has reached 2 million players worldwide, including loyal fans on Xbox and PC Game Pass. Thank you very much for supporting the OSF with this cool picture. Thanks for 2 million players. And obviously Game Pass has a lot to do with it because they specifically point them out here in this tweet. And as we know, Scarlet Nexus did come onto Game Pass, and honestly, it's an incredible game. I played through it and was blown away by how good the combat is in this game. Probably some of the best combat I've played in an action game like this in a very, very long time. It's also a Japanese game, which will help them tap into the Japanese market with Xbox Cloud Gaming and Game Pass in those regions, because I believe this would be a popular game over there. But just happy to see that it is doing well. It'd be great if they did a sequel to this game, because I would definitely be jumping in. And overall, this is just another example of how Game Pass can take great games that didn't receive the proper attention and a proper amount of people playing it for the quality of the game when it first released, and it makes sure that people experience those games, which potentially may lead to sequels. We look at Guardians of the Galaxy, which when that game was launched, literally did not do well whatsoever. It got cut in half in terms of its price a month after it was released, and then it came onto Game Pass. It's done very well. We've had reports over the last week, which I talked about, saying that, hey, Game Pass pretty much saved the game, getting more people to play it and then more people spending money on it. And Square Enix gets to make that money from the Game Pass deal. And this all goes back into kind of the debates between if Game Pass is good, if it's bad. Game Pass is obviously good. We've seen so many more positive stories and so many more positive accounts from developers and publishers about their success of the games in the service and how they've been happy with the service. And this goes into the comparison between the two services. And it's something that we're going to continue to see, especially as PlayStation Plus gets upgraded. And if they start to get more games, third-party releases that were just out for a couple of months or even day one releases, we'll see how they perform compared to how they perform on Xbox Game Pass. But you have this tweet here comparing it, saying that Scarlet Nexus 2 million players with 25 plus million subscribers on Game Pass versus PS Plus, which we talked about yesterday with Oddworld, that had 4 million downloads on PS5 only in 1 month. But the big difference there is the developer for Oddworld came out and said he was disappointed with the deal because he didn't expect as many people to download it. And obviously those downloads, even though 4 million people downloaded it, probably didn't play it that long, didn't go out and spend more money on the game, which results in a bad deal for the developer. What we're seeing with Xbox and Xbox Game Pass is, even though games are on Xbox Game Pass, people are still spending money on games and people are still going out and buying the games, which is increasing their overall profits. So we'll see if that trend continues. And hey, I'm not saying this trend isn't going to happen with PS Plus as well. When PS Plus shifts over to their new tiers, it very well may follow in those footsteps. But for this specific example right now, we don't have the data. The only thing we have is a developer coming out and saying they disliked the PlayStation Plus deal. and many other developers and publishers coming out and saying that they are very happy with their games on Xbox Game Pass. So Xbox Cloud Gaming is officially expanding over to console and Brazil. As we know, cloud gaming is available on your Xbox One console, which I think is a very smart strategy by Xbox, which just gives people who haven't been able to acquire a Series X or a Series S that avenue into the ecosystem to still be able to play those Series X, Series S only games. For example, they say here some next-gen only games are available in the cloud, like Microsoft Flight Simulator, so last-gen owners can go hands-on with these without the need to buy a new console. Very smart strategy. This all kind of goes back to Xbox from the beginning of this generation, saying that they believed in the cross-gen stuff and having people be able to play and experience games really no matter where they were, and they were going to continue to support the Xbox One. This is kind of like a loophole in a sense that, hey, if they want to continue to support Xbox One, which I do foresee them doing for the next number of years, you're gonna have to sign up to Xbox Game Pass and get into cloud gaming and be able to jump right in if you don't want to play it on like your phone or on a PC or anything. But when it comes to cloud gaming in general, they've been expanding, they've been continuing to expand. They announced this way back in September that they were rolling out on October 1st to Brazil, Mexico, Australia, and Japan, but this was only to mobile devices and Windows 10 PCs. And now they're bringing it over to Xbox One consoles in Brazil. Probably going to continue to do this in other regions. They also had this announcement here that they are bringing a preview of PC Game Pass to 5 new countries in Southeast Asia. And this was at the end of March. Those countries being Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam. So cloud gaming continuing to expand its Xbox way of just getting the ecosystem out to as many people as possible. I believe cloud gaming is probably the future of video games, and when you see stuff like this continuing to happen where Game Pass is expanding out to multiple countries on more devices, they are really in the lead, I think, when it comes to the overall cloud gaming sphere with their catalog, their technology with Azure, and then the ability to push out their games to more people than to just those who are locked to a specific piece of hardware. And finally, we got this. This is CD Projekt Red's or CD Projekt Group's fiscal year 2021 earnings. And we got some information about the amount of games they have sold with The Witcher and with Cyberpunk. So firstly, they have these new outposts. They talk about new development studios, CD Projekt Red Vancouver and the Molasses Flood studio, which I believe is in Boston. Could be wrong on that. But they have a strategic partnership with Epic Games and Unreal Engine that is going to be in all of the upcoming games. So Witcher 4, the big one everyone is expecting and waiting for some more information on, is going to be an Unreal Engine 5. A new saga begins here. Remember when they actually officially announced that they were moving over and working on that game. But when it comes to The Witcher specifically, it's actually crazy how many copies they've sold. 65+ million copies sold, including 40+ million sold of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. And then you go down and look at their production plans. Development work on a Cyberpunk 2077 expansion, development work on the new Witcher game based on Unreal Engine 5, further support for Cyberpunk 2077, and then they will continue to develop the next-gen version of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, which I believe now has been delayed officially. It was supposed to actually be coming out in Q2 for these next-gen consoles, so it should be coming out anytime soon, but they delayed it to a further date, specifically saying we have decided to have our in-house development team conduct the remaining work on the next-gen version of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. We are currently evaluating the scope of the work to be done and thus have to postpone Q2 release until further notice. We'll update you as soon as we can. Thank you for understanding. And I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, they're going to do this now. They're not going to take the same mistakes that they did with Cyberpunk and release something that just isn't ready. They're going to keep delaying this game until they know that it's a great product and polished, because they can't risk going through what they did with Cyberpunk 2077 once again. Now, the other thing with that being said is that we know there was a huge debacle with Cyberpunk 2077, but it still sold extremely well. So we look here at the numbers of a total amount of Cyberpunk 2077 sold. They sold 18+ million copies of this game. And this is the game with just probably had tons of pre-orders, and a lot of people just didn't cancel their pre-order, but they had the ability for you to actually return the game because of the issues with it. They had all of the debacle with public relations and the media, and just everybody calling them out for pretty much lying about the versions of the game, especially on the PS4 and the Xbox One, the games like couldn't run. It was just really, really bad. It was kind of a shockwave to the entire industry of what not to do. You just need to keep delaying your game, even if you've delayed it multiple times, rather than putting out a broken product. And to be clear, this 18 million says as of April 14th, 2022, retail sales to gamers sell through. Company estimates based on information collected from distributors. So at the end of the day, yeah, they had a terrible launch for this game and lots of backlash, but they still were able to sell a ton. Depends how you look at it, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. If you love the game now, which I think a lot of people do, a lot of people have said that this game is good, even with the next gen updates, it improved it and it's done a lot better, that it is a game worth playing. I still haven't played it, and we'll have to see what happens with the next expansion for Cyberpunk and then the next Witcher, but CD Projekt Red seems to still be doing very well. That's it for me, guys. Let me know your thoughts on all of this stuff: Kojima, Scarlet Nexus, cloud gaming coming to console in Brazil, and CD Projekt Red. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you're new here, you liked what you saw, consider hitting that subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for your support. I'll catch you in the next video.
Bye.